Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show Josh Caplan, who is the founder and chief activist officer of Tea of the People. Josh, it's a pretty funky sounding name for a company. Tell us what you're all about.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. So Tea of the People, as I like to refer to it, is a problem-solving company. We looked deep within the tea industry and found two glaring issues associated with quality and health. And we looked outside of the tea industry and looked at all the things that are going on in the world right now and wanted to dedicate our resources to solving those problems.
That's a pretty major undertaking. So how'd you do it?
So basically, Tea of the People started long before I actually got into tea. The book, Banker to the Poor by Muhammad Yunus, was a life-changing book. And as a passionate entrepreneur, I realized that not only could I create value for myself, but I realized that business could be a tool for good. And one day I was walking through a health food store, took a look at the teas on the shelf as an avid tea drinker, and started to really take a look at what it is that I was putting in my body. I did some research, and what I came to was a very interesting conclusion, is that tea today, from a quality standpoint, could be so much more than it is. The reason for that is that the global tea manufacturers are pushing down the quality because it's most cost effective. The second issue that we found is that the fruit teas, Doug, that you and I and so many people that we know drink, doesn't actually have real fruit in it.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me, but when you look at the packaging on your local tea, it just usually says contains tea leaves and some other name. I don't see a lot of chemicals in it like I see with processed foods.
Well, that's exactly it. You mentioned something very interesting. You take a look at the everyday tea box and see that it just says tea. So we'll take green tea, for example. Most of us know that green tea is extremely healthy for us, but there are over 200 different types of green tea. However, most people are not aware of the different types of green tea, which have different health benefits and have different processing procedures that are associated with making it. So what we do is we cut through all of the teas that are on the lower end of the spectrum, and we use only the most meticulous teas to produce and the most antioxidant-rich green teas in the world.
Okay, let's take a step back for a minute, because I really want to talk about the business side, but you're saying things that are making me very curious, because I do drink a fair amount of tea. It seems to me that, and obviously you're going to correct me because I'm wrong, but the tea that I drink, I buy whatever, I drink a lot of green tea, and usually the ingredients say green tea, although I've never actually read them much. Don't they just pick the leaves, dry them, and stick them in a bag?
So everybody knows that tea is one of the more healthier beverages that you could have. And most of it, about 98% of it, derives from the same leaf. And the Camellia sinensis is where most of the tea derives from. However, it's the processing that makes all of the difference. If you process it by steaming it or by using a hot wok to fry the tea, whether it be keeping it out in the shade for a certain amount of time or bringing it into the sun or picking the leaf inside of the plant or outside of the plant, this all makes a difference on the type of tea that you're going to get, and that affects the nutritional value of it.
No kidding. So tell me something else. How come tea, in other words, I believe that tea is a healthier drink than some of the other stuff that people drink, but when you get a cup of tea and it sits in the cup and you drink it for the day, by the end of the day, your cup is all stained. And I always wonder, is that stuff going into me and also staining my insides?
That is a very interesting question. I recently went to the dentist, and he had a little discussion with me, and he said, "Josh," he goes, "You're brushing twice a day, right?" I said, "Absolutely, and I'm flossing." He caught me on the flossing. He goes, "There's no way you're flossing." I said, "Okay, you got me. You got me."
All right.
He said, "I could see that you are drinking a tremendous amount of tea because it's turning your teeth the color of tea." I said, "Oh dear, well,
nasty.
I guess I drink a lot of green tea then." He goes, "Well, it's not turning green, but you have to make sure that you brush extra hard." So there are some effects from tea. That stuff is not necessarily bad for you, but like anything we drink, there is a color to it.
Ooh, skanky. All right, well, good. I'm glad you didn't just tell me that it's because I wasn't buying Tea of the People tea. We're talking with Josh Caplan, who's the founder of a company called Tea of the People, which he's been describing to us some of the model of being a high-quality tea, and not only in what they choose, but how they process it. One of the things, Josh, that people can see from your company and from the website is that you're not just a company that's making high-quality tea, but rather you have a mission about sustainability. And in fact, on the website, you talk about that your products and the way you deal with waste and energy are all designed to be sustainable. So I'm going to ask you two questions. The first one is, what do you mean by all of that? And the second one is, maybe we can dive down and to try and determine, it's neat or very nice that you're a good guy and you want to help the world, but are you going to make money for your shareholders? And then I want to extrapolate from that, from your answer, to all of these kind of SRI sort of investments. So I know it's we're in the next 5 minutes, but let's see what we can do.
I think those are two great questions, and right now, I think that there isn't enough debate whether or not sustainable business is actually a good model. I think from a marketing standpoint, a lot of people think it's fantastic, but I'd love to have more of a debate whether or not financially it makes the most sense. I believe it does. So let me get into your question. So philosophically, I started Tea of the People because I wanted to make an impact. So it's a very different starting point from where I wanted to begin. I wanted to begin from making a difference and making an impact in healthcare and poverty alleviation and climate change and education. So I started off with wanting to make a difference in those areas. And instead of starting a charity, I wanted to create a sustainable, self-reliant organization. And I said, well, a for-profit is the way to go then. I'm not having my hand out just asking for things. I'm creating value. And with those dollars, I'm going to be able to keep the business going and grow and then give the dollars back to the community. So it's a very different starting point from creating a traditional business and then giving back. It was starting with always giving back, and what's the best vehicle to do that.
How long ago did you start the company?
So Tea of the People, the idea of it has existed for over a year. And like a little chemist, I've put together every single blend myself. They're all hand blended. They're all original. And they're very, very complex to create. The company has been in existence and doing business since the fall. So we're a relatively new company, and already we've seen a tremendous effect that we've seen in tea drinkers and how they feel. And already some of the profits that we've been able to give to these organizations, we give very smartly. We give to very tech-savvy organizations, and they've been able to have a tremendous impact so far.
So I understand. The money that you make, you give away, or you just reinvest, as opposed to reinvesting in your own company?
So what we do is that we give a portion of our profits, between 5 to 10% each month, to a different entrepreneur or a nonprofit organization. So this past month, we just gave a portion of our profits. What Medic Mobile does is that they supply health workers in developing nations with SMS phones, not smartphones, very basic cell phones, that allow individuals in the community to manage their health care through text messages. So you and I take for granted going to the hospital to go and get our medication, but someone in these underdeveloped nations has to trek 10 miles to get their medication to find out that it might not even be there. So they're able to communicate with the hospital. So we've given enough phones that over 1,000 people could manage their own health care across 5 different African countries. And it's phenomenal.
Okay, so in other words, you're choosing a certain place to donate, but I'm trying to figure out, if you came to me and said, Doug, we want to expand, and you're an investment guy, can you give us $1 million so we can, I don't know, whatever you would need to plant more tea and more processing ability. And I would say to you, great, how am I I'm an investor. How will I come out well? And you'll say, well, we're going to help Medic Mobile, which sounds very nice. But I say, no, but I'm an investor. So tell me more about the profitability of this model.
So I think right now where we are in terms of sustainable business is that it's a foregone conclusion that it is an incredibly powerful tool from a marketing standpoint. And I don't think that entrepreneurs should shy away from that and say that, well, it seems as though that people want to be socially conscious because it makes good marketing. Well, it makes good marketing because it's a good thing to do. Good things are good marketing tools. So when you start from a place of authenticity and it ends up being a good marketing tool, well, that's better than trying to figure out, well, what's a good marketing tool, and then go for something that's sustainable. To answer your question, whether or not an investor like yourself or someone who has more of a traditional view, more of a conventional investment philosophy, I would say it's fantastic because it's one of the most effective ways to market your business. So if you're going to dedicate a portion of your profits towards making this impact, that's less dollars that you would then be putting out for more traditional marketing campaigns. And I think that this more authentic way of marketing, which is doing good through your business, is just another way of switching up the balance sheet and showing where financial resources are being allocated towards.
Okay, I like that explanation, meaning you started with a goal to have an impact, which was your original goal, and it's not that you're cynical saying, I'm going to donate to the children because then I'll get more clients, but I see that obviously there is a big market for this concept that is definitely attractive to a lot of people. Josh, I'm glad we were really able to talk on the business side of this, and unfortunately we're just about near the end of our time today. So tell me, how can people learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
So Tea of the People is exclusively sold online at www.teaofthepeople.com. We have 8 teas. Our 8 inaugural teas are online. You could see them in all their glory. They're delicious, they're healthy, and they make an impact. And that's how your viewers and your listeners could get a hold of it.
All right, so we will put a link to that at the show notes of today's Goldstein on Gelt show. Josh Caplan, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world. If you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.